Today on the I Still Dress Like a High Schooler Says podcast, I am going to be discussing YouTube's new AI video outline generator, whether or not it is copying me, and other stuff too, so go ahead and stick around. I don't normally do this, but while I was preparing for this episode, I stumbled across something in the back end of YouTube, and I have to demo it for you and discuss it with you. And going through it, it seems as though it may have taken quite a bit of inspiration from my microphone reviews. So let's jump to that recording, which I've never done before. I stumbled across this. Let's go to the recording now. I wasn't planning on doing this, but while I was preparing for today's podcast, I stumbled upon something in YouTube Studio, which I found very, very interesting, and it is AI related. I don't know if I'm part of a beta test or if this is widely available, but in your analytics section, there is a new section called Inspiration. I believe this is available to everybody. When you click on this, it tells you what people who watch your channel are looking for. So in this case, for the Bandrew Says podcast, people are looking for YouTuber podcast, positive content on YouTube, brand content YouTube. They're showing some videos that might inspire me on what video to make next. So don't ask Google's AI for advice. A lot of AI stuff here apparently. There's Tom Buck. Always happy to see Tom Buck. We have an SM7B. You get the idea. Gives you a bunch of videos and topics that may inspire you to make a new video. But the thing that I stumbled across, which I found interesting, I will click on one of the topics they recommended to me, which is positive content on YouTube. And then at the very top, it says create outline. So I want to go ahead and allow the AI on YouTube, Google's AI, to generate an outline for me about about positive content on YouTube. So let's go ahead and click that. It is thinking, it is generating. And what do we get? They couldn't generate an outline for this topic. Well, that is very negative. So I'm going to make negative content on YouTube. Let's go ahead and try a different one because I know it worked here. If we click on YouTube algorithm, it tells you how popular that topic is amongst your audience. So this is not a popular topic. So perhaps I should avoid that in the future. Let's click create outline. It already did this for this topic. Gives you a few points. So the outline that it generates is how the YouTube algorithm works, why the algorithm exists, what are the different algorithms, how to game the algorithm, and the conclusion. And for each of these topics or each of these headlines, it gives you 3 bullet points. It's not going to provide you a full outline. I could not make a video with this information. But I think it's fair. I think this would be a decent way to start working on a video because I think that is a good flow for the discussion. If I wanted to make a podcast about the algorithm, how the algorithm works, why the algorithm exists, what are the different types of algorithms, how to game it or how to succeed in it, and then have a conclusion. Like that is a perfect flow for a podcast. But each of the points they give per headline isn't very helpful. You would need to do quite a bit of additional research on each of these topics to make a show or a video with any amount of value, because how the algorithm works, they give the algorithm's goals, the algorithm's factors, how the algorithm works. So the answer to how the YouTube algorithm works is how the algorithm works. I mean, so it's not perfect, but I think that's kind of interesting. Let's go ahead, just for good measure, let's go ahead and see what another one would be. Let's not do YouTube. Let's look up best warm audio mics for vocals. No, best warm audio mics for vocals. and we will create an outline and see what it says. Because this I know something about. Warm audio review. Oh, okay, it's actually about the microphone. I don't care about that. Now let's try to actually type in a prompt here and see what we get. Best podcast microphones. And let's go ahead and let this create an outline and see how close it gets. All right. Rode PodMic versus Rode Procaster. Build quality, sound quality, ease of use, and price. So the first header is comparing the two popular podcast microphones from Rode. Determine which mic is better for you. Find out the best microphone for your podcasting needs. I mean, yeah, but best podcast microphones, why are they limiting it to Rode? That's a questionable decision because there are plenty of other brands that make fantastic microphones that would fit the role of podcasting mic. Build quality, sound quality, that is also very important. Ease of use, yes, important. They're both plug-and-play XLR microphones, so they're the exact same. And price, there is a little bit of a difference there. So kind of disappointed in that one. Let's try one more. Best vocal microphones. I'm doing this because I know about these topics and I can criticize it and determine if it's accurate or not. Okay, comparison of 5 popular wide dynamic microphones. But that is the first header. Polar pattern test, handling noise test, untreated room test, comparison of isolated tracks. First off, these are what I do. They are taking my tests, which I like. Okay. Shure SM58, SM48, MD421, Sennheiser E835, and SE4400A. Okay, couple things here. First off, again, why dynamic microphones? I asked for vocal microphones too. SE4400A is a large diaphragm multi-pattern condenser microphone, not a dynamic microphone. Also, why the SM48? SM58, E835, I get that. Why not SEV7? Why the 421? Very interesting decisions there. As I said, polar pattern test, handling noise, that is all stuff that I do. It looks like they just copied my timestamps from a podcastage review. Tone, rotation test, plosive test, distance test, proximity effect test, background noise test, microphone bump rejection test, mic resonance tap test, cupping the mic test. They are just copying my timestamps, my tests, vocal comparison, instrument comparison, and then overall comparison. So there you go. That is a new feature in YouTube Studio. I saw that you can allow AI to actually generate an outline for you, and I had to share that with you because that is big news, dude. That is big news. We're going to see a lot more low-effort content coming up soon. Yahoo! Okay, that's it. So what are my overall thoughts on this AI video outline generator in YouTube Studio? First thing I want to say is I really don't mind that it's essentially copying the outline and the tests that I include in my microphone reviews, because I think including those tests in all microphone reviews is beneficial for the end consumer. Also, all of the tests require the person making the video to physically have the microphone, so they can't just make a listicle. Because if they're basing it on that outline, you can't do a polar pattern test, a resonance test, a background noise rejection test without having the microphone, which again, I think is a net positive for the end consumer because they would now be getting another review or a listicle. But that listicle or review would be generated using the actual microphone that is being covered. So I don't actually mind that. I'm just having a bit of a goof, a bit of a gaffe, because I found that kind of shocking because I'm just a dope in a spare bedroom, yet that's my outline. Pretty interesting. I think that the outline and the formatting is fine, but some of the information within the outline is a bit weird. If you use the outline for the best vocal microphone prompt, the actual tests that it suggests that you do are all good. And that's no surprise that I'm saying that because, as I pointed out, those are the tests that I do. Over a decade, I have developed that set of criteria, that set of tests to provide people the best information. So I think the outline or the tests they recommend are good. But the microphone selection is very weird. I can kind of understand the SM58, the E835, because those are incredibly popular microphones. The MD421, I think that may be a more popular tom microphone as opposed to a vocal microphone, but I know people swear by it for vocals, so I think that's fine. The SM48, I start to question it a bit more because why? There are many much better microphones than the SM48, and clearly price is not a factor here because the next microphone they recommend is the SE4400A, which I love. I think that microphone is fantastic. The value you get out of it is crazy. But the best vocal microphone? There's no Neumanns in there. There's no Lewitts in there. There's no Lautens in there. There's no Telefunkens in there. There's no Rhodes in there. Just a very curious list there. Not the microphones I would select for the best vocal microphones. Maybe best podcasting microphones. This would be a list for best podcast, and you could argue that these are the best podcast microphones. But overall best vocal microphones, I'm not sure. And in the AI generated tool thing, they do have a disclaimer at the bottom of the screen. I don't have it in front of me, so I'm going to pull that up and I will read it to you because I think this is essential for anybody using this to remember. Experiment. AI-generated content varies in quality, may be inaccurate or inappropriate. Use discretion before you create or use anything provided. Not professional advice. So I think that is good that they have that disclaimer there. I hope people take that to heart. I don't think this is a nefarious tool. I don't think it will actually lead to a huge influx of low-effort content because it is just an outline. It's not developing an entire script. So if you use any prompts here, you're still going to have to do research. You're still going to have to go and create a script and do a bunch of additional outlining and gather the information to make it an actual video because this just gives you bullet points. I'm sure some people will take this, then go drop it into ChatGPT or some other AI tool, and then that's how they'll make their low-effort content. But as far as inspiration, as far as being a YouTuber and trying to consistently make new videos, I don't see any real issue with this. Just be very hesitant about it because when I was looking at a topic that I don't know much about, I was thinking, hey, that's a pretty interesting outline. But then once I plugged in a topic that I know a lot about, microphones, that's when issues started to arise, or I started to notice those issues, and it became much more apparent. I actually had to look this up, but there is a theory or an idea about this. It's called the Gell-Mann amnesia effect, and what that refers to is if you're reading a newspaper and you're an expert on the topic of the article, you'll be able to point out all the issues with it. You would say, that's BS, that's BS, that's BS, this article is trash and it is completely wrong. But then you'll turn the page and read the next news article and say, oh, okay, I believe that because news is trustworthy. You've just forgotten how inaccurate the article you read is, and you trust the next article completely. So that's kind of what was going on here. I was looking at an article which I knew nothing about, or an outline that I knew nothing about generated by this AI, and thinking, yeah, that seems good enough. But then when I looked at an outline generated on a topic that I know something about, I was saying, yeah, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. Very weird decision there. So that kind of applies here. I don't think it's the most nefarious tool. I think it's going to be fine. Maybe I'll use it. Maybe I'll use it a little bit later in this video. We'll see. That is it for that piece of news. That's really all I wanted to talk about today. Now let's jump to what I've been testing. I am now on the Neumann KMS-105 handheld condenser microphone. Hello, Neumann. And I am still running it into the Heritage Audio i73 Pro 2. Another disclosure thing, this is a loaner from Heritage Audio, but I'm using this microphone so that I can actually distort the preamp. So let's just roll back the output stage. Increase the gain all the way. Oh my gosh, are we clipping? It certainly sounds like it, yet our A to D converter is not distorting. How cool! That's enough of that. So that is what I am using. How fun is that? That's the benefit of having that output stage on each of the preamps. Really like that, and I loathe any kind of analog pre which does not have that output stage, because part of the fun of having an analog preamp is borking your audio, just making it sound gritty and disgusting, especially when it comes to drum machines. I love it. That's what I've been testing. I think I said that already. Let's jump to what you had to say. First comment comes from Mike Bauer. He says, quote, "It just reiterates upon existing ideas," end quote, ... Clearly, you're not a fan of country music. Mike, I understand that your comment was likely just meant to be a joke, but I will look for any opportunity to get on a soapbox, go on a rant, and share recommendations about music. I have to admit, I have never been a huge fan of country music. Growing up, I downright hated it. My mother and my brother would listen to country, and I would grit my teeth and just say, this sucks. But I was listening to a lot of punk at the time, and I was kind of indoctrinated to anything other than punk rock is terrible. Just a bunch of sellouts. But at the same time, this was the early aughts, and a lot of the country on the radio around that time was kind of bad, in my opinion. But over the last couple of years, I have found myself gravitating more towards country, towards folk, towards bluegrass, because it just seems a bit more authentic, it's less produced, and I think that's the real appeal to country. This is a quote that I had to look up, but I remember the quote, didn't know who said it. All that country requires is 3 chords and the truth. It may be repetitive sometimes, but it is just storytelling put to music. Storytelling with a backing track. And that's what's so appealing about classic country, and about these artists that I'm going to share with you. Because they all seem incredibly authentic. And nowadays, when everything is so overproduced and perfect, a little bit of imperfection, a little bit of authenticity goes a long way. So the first artist I want to recommend is named Sierra Farrell. She is just a crazy vocalist. She sounds like she's straight out of the 1950s, and it is perfect. She is also a born entertainer. She dresses like a peacock. I don't think she's intending to look like a peacock, but she is very flashy sometimes. She is just a showwoman, and it works incredibly well. If you are looking for an angelic 1950s voice, go look at... I will have links to songs from each of these people in the episode notes and description, but Sierra Farrell is mind-blowingly good. Then we have more bluegrassy than country, Billy Strings. If you're a guitarist, you know who he is. When I first heard Dust in a Baggie, which is his popular song, the one that blew him up, I could not comprehend how anybody plays that fast or plays that cleanly. And then watching interviews with him, he was high on mushrooms in a basement at a party when he was doing that. So the fact that he was able to play that well and sing that well while he is under the influence of substances is all the more impressive. But the song is incredibly well written. The playing is virtuosic, if I can use that term. And over the last 8 years or so, he has only gotten better, because I think it was about 8 years ago that video really popped off. And I've been following him ever since I first saw that. And it's incredible to see what he has done. The next is a very recent discovery for me. His name is Jesse Wells, and I would say he falls more into the folk category. And this is complete and utter authenticity. Not even a studio microphone. He just sets up a camera. Maybe it's his phone. Maybe it's some kind of Canon pocket camera or something, but he just sets it up and records. Not an amazing sounding recording, but my God, the songs are just so good. And he's actually saying something that matters, something that's important, he's raging against the machine, man. And he's fantastic. And he has gained quite a bit of popularity over the last couple of months because people are so hungry for that authenticity. On the radio, everything is so overproduced, and that's not a terrible thing. I think there's a lot of value in well-produced music because writing a really catchy melody is difficult. You will never hear me denigrate somebody for having a popular song on the radio because that is an art on its own. Writing a song that has mass appeal, a lot of musicians will say, "Oh, that's so easy." No, it's not. It really is not. If it's so darn easy, give it a shot. Try to get your songs on the... I know, I don't have the connections. That's why I can't do it. No, it's because a lot of us are too arrogant and we think, oh gosh, we need to make it as complex as possible. And being able to simplify an idea and not feel the need to constantly show off, that's a skill in and of itself. And a lot of us musicians do not want to accept that. We think, just because we have the ability to do something, we should do it. And if people reject it, that's their loss. They just have bad taste, man. No, maybe it's because that's not necessary. Maybe people just want a good melody, a good beat, and a recognizable and familiar chord progression, and that's fine. And being able to do that successfully is quite difficult. Okay, enough of a rant there. Next is very old country music. It is by an artist named Little Jimmy Dickens. This is a guy who would tour in the 50s on the road. And there is one song by him that I think may be the greatest country song ever written. It is called Life Turned Her That Way. Again, this is just pure authenticity. I'm sure there was a songwriter. I'm sure he didn't write it, but it is just such a well-written song, and it is the epitome of good storytelling. There's almost subversion of expectations, and then, there's a twist. It is... Just go watch or listen to this song. It is incredible. You will love it. And then you have all the classics. You have Hank Williams. You have others. I didn't finish that documentary guy, Ken Burns. I didn't finish watching the country music one. I need to get back to that, though, because after the first episode, I think I had a list of 30 artists that I needed to go listen to because all of them seemed so good and they have such tragic stories. And I think that's where that trend or that stereotype comes from. Country is about my woman left me, my dog died, I lost my truck. But in reality, a lot of that early country was from extremely poor and destitute people just sharing their story. So there was a lot of misery in it, and they were coping with that misery or sharing that misery because people related to it. Or maybe they were sharing it and then people related to it. They weren't sharing it because people did, but they shared it because that was the life they were living. And then everybody else who was suffering and going through that said, finally, something that I can relate to. So those are a few recommendations that I have. Sierra Farrell, Billy Strings, Jesse Wells, and Little Jimmy Dickens. And then just go down a classic country rabbit hole. Hank Williams is good, all of them. So no, I am not the biggest fan of a lot of radio country. Just not my cup of tea. I'm sure there's a lot of skill in it. A lot of them, I'm sure they are great songwriters, singers, guitarists, all of it. But not my cup of tea. But there is a ton of incredible country, folk, and bluegrass music coming out that you should be listening to. And this is going down this rabbit hole kind of snapped me out of that idea of, oh gosh, modern music stinks. Modern music is so bad. It was so much better in 2000 and the 90s, the 80s. I mean, yes, there was great music in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, but that doesn't mean there's not great music in the 2020s. You may not just hear it, or you may just not hear it on the radio. You may have to go onto YouTube and find it there. You may have to go on to Sound. Does anybody still go on to SoundCloud? I don't know. But point being, there is still a ton of fantastic musicians and music out there that is coming out. So just seek it out. It's out there. And it's exciting. Thank you very much for the comment, Mike, because it allowed me to get on my soapbox and up on a why. I just watched Ace Ventura recently. I was trying to do the dolphin thing. Next, we have some feedback from Stargate Pioneer, the legend from Better Podcasting. BetterPodcasting.com, BetterPodcasting.com, BetterPodcasting.com. Take it away, SP.
Hey, Bandrew, it's SP. I'm a little looped up on cold medication right now, and I thought this was the perfect time to send you a video feedback. First of all, I'm sorry if my face has demonetized your video. You have to let me know. It's been known to happen before, just showing my face. YouTube just doesn't think it's monetizable. So go ahead and let me know if my face was the timestamp that caused that. And then as far as the overhead shot, don't do it. Nobody wants to see your mess. Nobody wants to see the room. Nobody wants to see all the junk that you've got around, or maybe what audio treatment or what kind of audio gear or what space you're in. Nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to see throwing useless pieces of road gear behind you. You know, nobody just wants that. And as far as the headphones go, maybe people wear headphones because they don't have ears and don't want to scare anybody. Have you thought of that? Has that entered into your consideration? You don't know. Could be an alien that doesn't have ears. I mean, we'll just, scare everybody right now. The earless SP. Yay! Well, now I can't hear anything and it sounds kind of weird to me. And I sure hope the Shures kept in one piece. But anyway, great job. Love the show. Keep it up. We'll catch you later. SP out.
SP, thank you very much for the video submission. I really do appreciate it. It is abundantly clear that you are loopy on cold medicine, and I have to admit, I love loopy SP. It really exaggerates and accentuates and brings out that sarcasm and snarkiness that you are known for. And if you could be loopy on cold medicine for every single recording of Better Podcasting, all the better, because that is what we tune in for. Yes, Steven's Canadianness, his maple syrup, his mousses, his meese, and then your sarcasm and snarkiness. That would be wonderful. Yes, there was a lot of sarcasm in the comment, but that is exactly why I like having overhead shots. I like seeing people's space. I like seeing the room they're in. I like seeing the gear they use. I like seeing the gear they have in the background. I like seeing the treatment. And yes, I even like seeing all the junk they have lying around their house, lying around their studio, on their desk, because that tells me something about them. That's a little bit of a story to sound like a hokey weirdo. All the stuff they have is a little bit of a story, man, and isn't that neat? But I like seeing people's stuff. It's just fun, so that's why I do it. Also, you mentioned once you took off your headphones that you sound a little bit funny and you could no longer hear yourself. I noticed something about using headphones and not using headphones. First off, yes, when you use headphones all the time, once you take them off while you're recording, it does sound weird. But the main thing that I noticed is I recently recorded a video where I wasn't wearing headphones. It may have been last week, actually, the last episode. But I noticed once I took off the headphones, it seems as though I spoke more naturally and I was performing less, for lack of a better term. It seemed as though I didn't have to put on this persona. I just became more natural and more myself. I don't know if that's just because I can't hear myself being piped in, so I don't try to adjust for how I speak. So it's just my natural speaking voice comes out, or if there's some other psychological reason for that. But I noticed that when I don't have headphones and I'm not monitoring, it just feels a bit more natural, like I'm speaking more natural as opposed to performing or putting on a bit or whatever it may be. There is still the huge drawback, though. You can't hear what you're doing. You can't hear what you're recording, so you don't know if you're clipping, you don't know if you're popping, you don't know if you've gone off axis, so there's a big drawback there, especially if you're going for high-quality audio. So thank you very much, SP. I appreciate the video feedback, and please provide more snark, provide more sarcasm, and be loopy, if possible, on better podcasting. Next, let's jump to value for value because, yes, this is a V for V show, which means I do not put this behind a paywall. I do not have SP. Your face did not demonetize the video because I do not monetize this podcast, so there's no way of knowing. It didn't pop up with a yellow check mark and say, hey, this video is not available for monetization, so I think your face is fine. But I don't have ads on it, so I didn't have that immediate feedback on whether or not your face would demonetize it. Also, I'm just realizing I haven't uploaded this video yet. I haven't uploaded this video, so I wouldn't even know. I was just thinking about last week's episode. I gave you a response to something that hasn't happened yet. I am an idiot. Okay, this is a value for value show, so let's go to that. What does that mean? I don't put this behind a paywall. I don't have ads. All I do is put the show out there free of charge, and if you get any value out of the show, I just ask you return it in whatever format you're able, whether that be time, talent, or treasure. Today we are focusing on the treasure. First up, we have 100 USD from Liberty Dude. Holy Toledo, Batman. He says, yo, bud, I wish to see you take a 2-week or more epic vacation. Let this start the fund. Take some time, get away, have fun, as if you were 25 again. As for the old Bandrew hot take on not needing big output, heavy head, and amps, I wonder if that may be a sign of maturity or age. In my opinion, as we age, we no longer need music to be ear-damagingly loud. While those wild animals we used to be couldn't seem to turn it up loud enough, how many past concerts led to the last song being more ear-damaged static distortion than the quality it is now with reasonable loudness? At least you are still young enough that you don't have to turn it up simply because your hearing is going away with age. Enjoy life, buddy. What was that? Enjoy life, buddy. May every day find you smiling at its end. Liberty Dude, thank you so much for the 100 USD, but more importantly, thank you for that incredibly kind and thoughtful comment. I think you're exactly right. It comes with maturity, realizing I don't need to damage my hearing and everybody else's hearing at this venue. I don't need to overpower the bass player. I don't need to overpower the drummer. It's accepting your place within a group of musicians and understanding that your ego does not rely on being the loudest, which I think it may have been in my 20s. And most bands, when they're starting out and they're young, I need to be louder than the other guitarist because neener. That really is what it comes down to, just playground level stuff. And then realizing, oh, this is an ensemble, therefore our levels ought to be equal so that we mix together well. That's maturity. And then realizing, ow, my back, I would say that's age. The maturity is realizing that you're able to mix between all the instruments in the band and then realizing that your back hurts because the amp weighs 150 pounds. That's the age portion. And then you end with a very profound sentence. May every day find you smiling at its end. I think that's a goal that each and every one of us should strive for, should thrive for, should strive for. That's something that would make every day better, and it just gives you something to work towards, and just letting go of this. The thing that allowed me to do something kind of like that is letting go of the stuff that I don't have control over and just rolling with the punches. I know all the alpha male influencers would say, oh, just going with the flow, that's such feminine energy. I don't care. You could say I'm a chick all you want. No sweat off my sack, dude. I'm a happy camper. I'm just a rockin' and a rollin'. So I think that's a great sentence to end on, and I appreciate that very much. Next, we have 2 USD from Mike Bauer. He says, thanks. Mike, thank you very much for the 2 USD. I really do appreciate it. That will go to keeping the show up and running on the audio format, keeping it ad-free, keeping the websites up, all of that stuff. And finally, we have 350 ZAR from Urshad, and he says, thanks. Urshad, thank you very much for the 350 South African Rand. I think I got that right. And yes, I did have to look that up. I do not have currency abbreviations memorized. I'm not that much of a finance nerd, but I really do appreciate that. And I appreciate the comments and the suggestions that you've been leaving. Really helps out the show, and the financial support helps out the show as well. If you've enjoyed this show being ad-free, not having a paywall, not having anything, it is because the wonderful people who financially support it, like Liberty Dude, Mike Bauer, and Urshad. So thank you to them, and thank you to you for enjoying the show and still being here and sticking through it. I do try to add value and make it entertaining to go through the V for V section as I rub my nose, because I understand just reading comments with money is a bit vulgar, or it could be vulgar, but I like highlighting the people who support the show and keep it ad-free, and I try to make it entertaining at the same time. So if there's anything that I could do to make it more entertaining, let me know. Do I need to put on a clown wig and paint my face or something? I don't know. Maybe I'll do that. I hope that wouldn't make it better, because that seems like a lot of work. Seems like a lot of cleanup. I'd have to take another shower. All right. I don't have any Ask Bandrews, but we are going to go to what I called last week, What I Like Weekly. I got some great recommendations, but I mistyped what I wanted to call it. I was going to call it Weekly Recommendation Algorithm, but I mistyped. I typed it Weekly Wecommendation. So I am going to call this the Weekly Wecommendation Algorithm. And I hope anybody with a speech impediment takes no offense to that. I am mocking myself for the complete inability to speak and my complete inability to type. What I like weekly, or I should say my weekly recommendation, is DVD menus that have a play all option. This is so stupid. Little bit of a backstory here. I have been a part of a D&D campaign, a Dungeons and Dragons campaign group, for 2 years at this point. We meet up every single week, play D&D. We recently made a switch over to a game called Monster of the Week. And for some reason, Buffy the Vampire Slayer came up, and every single person in the group said, "What? Bandrew, you have not seen Buffy the Vampire Slayer? That show is right up. That is a show made for you. I would have assumed you would have loved that when it aired, and it would be one of your favorites." I admit, don't hate me, I have never seen it. So after that session, I went and found a full series run on DVD for $40, and I bought it, which is a lot cheaper than getting streaming for the 2 years it'll take me to watch it. So I bought the DVDs. And going through it, there is no play all episode function on the DVDs. Admittedly, I am still on season 1, so maybe it'll be remedied on a future disc. But for season 1, there is no play all. So in order to go through the episodes, you need to manually go into the menu and say, episode 1. Click on that. Play episode. When the episode is done, go back, go to the next episode, click into that, play episode, and so on and so forth, which is a little bit annoying. It's not the biggest deal, but it is something that I have taken for granted. I don't know the entire time I have ever watched any TV show on DVD or Blu-ray, because I think every single one has always had a play all function. So coming across one that does not, kind of shocking, kind of baffling, and I hope they remedy it on a future season. I haven't put these on my server yet, so that would resolve the issue very easily because Plex does have a play all function where it just plays them back to back to back, but currently I'm still watching them on disc and it lacks that. So I just wanted to say my weekly recommendation is DVDs and Blu-ray seasons that have play all. That's what I realized I love this week. You may find this really dull, but the weekly recommendation algorithm was... That's the dumbest name of anything ever. But it can sometimes be a very mundane thing. It's about sharing what I enjoy and what I appreciate. Okay. That is it for this week's episode. I really do appreciate you coming by. I know you could do anything with your time, like watch a podcast where the host knows how to speak, watching a season of Buffy, listening to a Muse album or anything, listening to Jesse Wells or Sierra Farrell and just going to heaven because that's where it'll take you, or anything else. So the fact that you choose to spend your time with me at all, any amount of time, really is humbling. I really do appreciate you. And I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Have an amazing Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Next Sunday, I will be back. I will be talking at you, with you, about you, surrounding you. That's it. Bye-bye. Whoa. Boop.
This has been a Geeks Rising production. Your executive producer is Bandrew Scott. For more information, head over to www.geeksrising.com.
Yesterday, when I was filming my review, I did a trick shot when I was throwing the box, and I have an injury from it. I wonder if I could get medical insurance to cover microphone review-related injuries. That would be really helpful, because I could go for a massage right now, or like a chiropractic thing. I don't think I'll ever go to a chiropractor, though, because watching videos of that, I always think, oh, this is how Steven Seagal killed people in every single one of his movies. He would walk up behind them and just snap their neck. And these chiropractors are doing the exact same move. And if there's anything I've learned in this life, it's the information garnered from Steven Seagal movies is accurate, and your life should be lived based upon that information. That's my motto in life. 3, 2, 1.